you're not listening to Pubcast, the terrorists are winning. That's what Jay Moore says.
Welcome to the Pubcast. Sit down and enjoy a pint.
Welcome to a very special episode of the Pubcast. This one is not going to follow our usual format. This episode is simply a reaction to the Snyder Cut version of the Justice League movie that was recently released on HBO Max. Allison, Eric, and I watch a lot of these superhero movies, and while they're certainly not everyone's cup of tea, they're generally relatively fun, and the best ones can be really good. But the bad ones are really, really bad. And the original cut of the Justice League was one of these really bad movies. And that was in 2017. So the three of us are just going to give our initial reaction to the Snyder Cut. We didn't do tons of research. I didn't create any new games. This is just a conversation about what we just saw. What was good about it, what was not so good about it, and what it might mean for the future of streaming movies. So, here we go. Okay, the Snyder Cut. Before I even talk about that, I want to set up sort of where I am with superhero movies. I think you are probably too, Al, and Eric might be somewhere around there as well. But when this movie was released or talked about and then it came out a couple days ago, it's not that big a deal. Who really cares? But there's nothing going on. It's something new. It had some build-up online as far as this is going to be a bigger, better version. It's the original vision of the original director and whatever. But so not everybody is into superhero movies, of course. A lot of people don't like them at all. But I specifically when it comes to like Marvel movies, I hesitate to use this phrase, but I will anyway. It's sort of like a rule of thirds or a rule of threes. Third of them are not very good. Third of them are pretty good. And then a third of them are really good. Yeah. And up until now, I think most of all of the DC movies have been in the not very good or fine version. And Justice League, the first time, the original version, was in the bad category. It was bad. It's not a good movie at all. And I keep coming back to this one or these movies with DC because it's freaking Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. It's like the most iconic superheroes or fictional characters that we have in movies.
I mean, I'm assuming, of course, we are ignoring The Dark Knight. Because that's a great movie.
Yeah. But so that falls into the good ones. Right?
Okay. I mean, the way that you were talking about most or all of the DC is that it fell into the or the
not very good. I mean, so since the Dark Knight,
okay,
I'm talking about this new batch.
You're referring to the DCEU.
Yeah, the Man of Steel, even Wonder Woman, the Justice League, the Batman versus Superman, those type of deals, specifically. But so even when they're not that good, like. To me, like Ant-Man or whatever Marvel movie that you don't think's all that great, Thor 2, whatever. Even the ones that aren't very good, there's usually some sort of fun storytelling thing in there. There's some good foreshadowing, callbacks, setups and payoffs, references of other characters that may come into play later. There's some fun stuff in there, even in the bad movies.
The Easter eggs, if you will.
I'm not even sort of. I mean, yes, but even if you don't go too far down the Easter egg path, but like things that may be relevant in future movies, right. So usually when they're not very good, these superhero movies, the Marvel version, there's always they're watchable, right? I mean, Thor 2, maybe not, but those type of things. So I'm saying all that to say I'm not Johnny superhero movie, but I watch all of them, especially the Marvel ones, because there is some storytelling and there is a continuing story. There is some fun stuff even in the bad movies. Justice League was bad, and there wasn't anything fun about it. Now I want to set up why this Snyder Cut came out.
Okay.
The broad strokes. I mean, the minutia, who cares? But Zack Snyder was the original director, and he did, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, he did Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So he sort of is the vision behind the DCEU. The darker, grittier, visually darker tone of these movies as compared to Marvel. So he was the original director and had to leave midstream during production. I forgot about why. When we were talking about it a couple of days ago, the reason I thought off the top of my head was, he was fired or something went wrong. No, his daughter committed suicide.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, it was very, very unfortunate situation.
Yeah. At age 20. And so in the middle of production, he said, I'm out. I can't handle this. I gotta, walk away.
And if I'm not mistaken, though, I think he tried to keep working for a while, and then it became too much, and then pulled away.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Took a step back.
Yep. So he stepped out. They brought in Joss Whedon, who directed the first Avengers movie, the first coming together Avengers movie, and he tried to put a Marvel spin on what Zack had already done. He tried to brighten up the colors and make it more visually vibrant as opposed to dark, and he tried to add in a lot of little funny jabs and little humor here and there. Go ahead.
If I'm not mistaken, that was also somewhat of a course correction done by the studio as well, because the Batman v Superman was poorly received, and they were trying to kind of right the ship a little bit.
Right. I mean, I don't think Snyder would have done that anyway, but I mean, now they had Joss Whedon in there, they could sort of flex their muscles a little more. But yeah, agreed. So he did a lot of reshoots too, and that's where you get all of the Henry Cavill stuff with the mustache painted out and the weird effects and all that sort of stuff. So then Justice League comes out in 2017. It's not very good. Even the fans didn't like it. And then there was this push for the Zack Snyder cut. Let's see what Zack Snyder would have done, what the original director, what his original vision would be. Could this have been a better movie if, things didn't happen, basically? I mean, I think he leaked some pictures of this is what I would have done, and here's a picture of the thing I was going to do, but I wasn't able to because of the circumstances. Yeah. And people ran with that. There's this big push for the Snyder Cut, and then over the past year or 18 months, Warner Brothers put this together and said, okay, let's just release this and put it on our new streaming service, and let's go. So there we are. You just seem like you have questions.
Well, I mean, I don't know that I have questions. No. I mean, I guess the thing that may be hard about this is, obviously he didn't get to finish whatever shooting he was wanting to do. And without jumping too far ahead, end up with a 4-hour cut of this almost makes me feel like he did not have as much of a vision, where it's just like, we're gonna throw in. We're gonna get there.
Right. We're gonna get there. Hold that. Right. We're gonna get there. So that's the setup. And when we were talking earlier, I kept saying that there weren't reshoots. This is just a recutting and taking stuff that already had existing pieces. There were some reshoots. There was some stuff that he didn't get to shoot that he wanted to shoot. Right. But whatever. This is the ultimate cut for the Zack Snyder fans, right? So now we have this 4-hour version on HBO Max. Mm-hmm. This clearly could be a potential new way for directors to release, or studios to release, a secondary version that is bigger and better. It includes all the stuff they couldn't put in a normal size movie.
Like truly like a director's cut kind of situation.
Right. to have two distinct movies where you have Coppola he puts out The Godfather and it's 3 hours long. He had to cut a bunch of stuff. And so now he can put out The Godfather. This is theoretical, of course. Right. He can put out The Godfather he wanted to make, and it's 4.5 hours long. Maybe it's in two halves, or it's a mini series of 4 parts, 4 hour and 20 minute mini movies or whatever. These digital platforms now, with this Snyder Cut being the template, maybe now we're going to see more of this stuff. I mean, it's another way to monetize it, maybe, but also you can have the theatrical version and the big extra large version, but you can't do that in the theaters because there are only so many showtimes a theater has in a day. If you show a 2-hour movie, you can show that 7 times in a day, 8 times in a day. If you have a 4-hour movie, you can show it 3 times in a day, or whatever, right?
And that cuts down on concessions, tickets, all of that. Yeah.
No theaters want to have a 4-hour movie,
right?
But on streaming, who gives a shit? Right. What's the difference? So you release the theatrical version and then a true different at-home streaming version, at-home streaming version. This could be this. This might be a trend.
It's interesting. Again, I'm trying to hold back on talking about the movie.
We're about to get there.
It would be. I have like a different format of how I think that should go, or at least in this situation. But
okay,
go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, we've all seen director's cuts where you have an extra 7 minutes of footage or 13 minutes of deleted scenes added back in or whatever. This is the original Justice League was almost exactly 2 hours. The Snyder Cut is almost exactly 4 hours. It's
a long movie. Version. It is incredibly long.
You hear that every once in a while, though, how a director, when they make a movie, they'll say that the movie was, like, the original cut of the movie was 3+ hours long. I think even episode 3 of Star Wars was well over 3.5 hours when they first cut it, or when they first shot it, and then they cut it down to whatever it's gonna be. I don't think it's a big deal or even all that new to have this movie be 3+ or even 4 hours long. The fact that they released it at 4 hours is the surprising part.
So this dovetails into what Allison was about to get into. We can get into it now. In writing, there's a phrase called "kill your darlings." Basically, this awesome piece of this paragraph you wrote that's perfectly worded that you just love so much. Chances are, if it doesn't move the plot along or advance the characters, you have to cut it. Even though it's awesome and it's great, and you think it's a good little piece of your effort in the book or in the story or in the whatever, you have to cut that and kill it. And that's where we're at. Is that, I mean, yes, these long versions have existed forever, but there's a reason why the editing happens. Like, movies are made in the editing, and you have to tighten it up. You have to keep pace, and you have to keep it flowing. And even in this movie, it's clear that there is a lot of stuff that there's a lot of fat to trim.
There was a lot of what I would put in the cinematography bucket of drone shots, these overhead kind of CG visuals that I guess are sort of cool, but this isn't that kind of movie. No. Like it was kind of ill placed to have, and that I think it was particularly prevalent in the first 45 minutes of just a lot of kind of expansive shots that didn't do anything other than we're looking at a bridge from 5 different angles.
Yeah. So this is the section where I want to talk about the negatives, the things that we didn't like in this new cut. And we can talk about it in broad strokes or specifics. So this goes back to comparing. I mean, the DCEU is effectively based on the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah,
right?
I feel like I got to say something sooner than later before we get into the specifics of the movie. But I think unfortunately for DC, they miss the creative boat that the big strategy that Marvel came up with 15 years ago, or whenever the first Iron Man came out, that they had this idea of all of these individual character movies that were released, and they were about a specific character from a comic book, and they developed each of those characters, and then they thought about bringing multiple characters together. And I feel like DC went, oh, that's super cool, we should do that too, but we don't have another 15 years to develop all of these characters, so they're throwing them in kind of too many too quick to try to catch up to these kind of big, even Batman versus Superman was like a little early, and they're like 3 steps behind. They're like the little sibling that's trying to catch up with the big brother.
Well, and that's the problem with copying.
Yeah.
Don't do what they did. Do your own thing.
Right.
Marvel introduced Hulk, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, and then did the Avengers, right? Like you just said. DC was trying to do that all at once. I mean, they had Man of Steel, Wonder Woman, and Batman versus Superman. We knew who Batman was, I guess, already, so fine. But Justice League, the original, and the Snyder Cut is so packed with backstory and attempts at making you know and like these other characters. I mean, you need a whole backstory for the Flash, Cyborg, and Aquaman, because this is before the Aquaman movie. And then they throw in Martian Manhunter out of nowhere in this movie. Why? Who cares?
To talk about DC, doing something different, I feel like they tried doing that with Suicide Squad. Like, I like the idea that they were doing this, the focus on a lot of the bad guys, but they made the same mistake that they made with Justice League, in that it's everybody too quick, and so it's just 10-minute vignettes of each character.
And Suicide Squad suffered from the same problem as a switch in directors.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I totally forgot that.
Yeah. But like Star Wars, introduce your world and your story and a couple of main characters, and then build out from there. You could do that. It's been done. Star Wars did it, the most effective in the history of the world, right? Now you go back and you fill in a Han Solo movie, or you fill in a Boba Fett movie or a series or whatever the hell it is. DC could have done that. Yeah. Don't go out there and try to chase Marvel. Do your own thing. DC and Marvel is the color and the light. DC is the dark and the brooding. Do it differently. It's fine.
But again, I think they were so close and yet missed the mark of, playing into their sweet spot of like the dark and gritty by having this origin story almost of all of the bad guys. But they got too greedy to try to put everything all together. Like they should have, they could have done a Joker and a Harley Quinn. If they want to bundle a couple of characters together, you do that.
But even think of that. They focus too much on the bad guys. Who's the least developed character in the recent memory of DC movies? It's Jared Leto's Joker.
Right.
I mean, they focused on the bad guys, but didn't focus on your best bad guy.
Right.
What are you doing?
Even this one, it is the epilogue is the first mention again of him. But
I don't necessarily want to talk about the epilogue stuff because there's clearly at the end a lot of stuff's just tacked on just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
But, whatever. But,
right. And anyway, Eric, you probably are trying to jump in here.
Feel free.
Yeah. No, I'm in total agreement that DC they were desperate to play catch up, and they threw everything together way too quick. By the time they made Man of Steel, and that was standalone, and that was okay, but then by Batman v Superman, they had Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Aquaman, and the Flash were all in the same movie, and it was a mess.
Yeah. I didn't mind so much the teaser of Wonder Woman in for like 5 minutes to introduce her her standalone movie.
Perfectly fine, I think. It worked.
But Eric, you're right. Like, there was just, why did they have to throw Aquaman in there? Why?
Yeah.
Like, it's too
but also tonally
fast.
With DC being the darker, grittier brand, they struggle.
I like struggling.
Struggle and have a struggle with. So they're darker and grittier, roughly, but they're two of their three biggest characters, Superman and Wonder Woman, are colorful, bright, uplifting characters in this dark, gritty world. Like, what is their tone? They're all over the place. I think they have a problem, and that's a bigger issue. But I do. So I have just a bunch of bullet points of things I didn't like.
Okay.
That I wrote down. I wrote down some notes, and then we can go off on tangents here.
Yeah.
I mentioned the Martian Manhunter thing. The green guy who was posing as Superman's mom for a minute.
Yeah.
And then
Martha.
And then he comes back at the end for no apparent reason. Just, hey, I'm here. Remember me?
Right. Well, and even as I was watching it in my third attempt to get through the 4 hours, I had to pause it. I'm like, did I miss something? Like, no. I had to ask you, because I mean, I'm not a comic book reader, although I've seen most of the comic book movies. I don't know enough except for what gets introduced in the movie. And it almost looked like he almost was depicted like Darkseid or whatever the bad guy is in this movie. I'm like, wait a minute, what is happening?
I only know of him because as this DCU thing came together over the past 7 years or whatever it's been, people were talking about, when are they going to introduce Martian Manhunter? And I'm like, what are you talking about? So I had to look it up and figure it out. And it's, this other character. But
I have a vague recollection that the boys had an action figure of him.
The character design in this movie, he looks weird. Like, it's bad. It's dark. It just doesn't look. Yeah.
And is the general he turned into the general that
Superman?
Yeah, the general that's been in the movies all along.
Yeah.
He's been the Martian Manhunter the whole time.
Yeah.
He was in both Superman and was he in Suicide Squad?
No.
He didn't meet with he wasn't in one of that boardroom with what's her name?
No.
Are we sure?
He was in Man of Steel and he was in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So that was weird. And then when toward the end, I guess this is I'm not sure if this is the epilogue or toward the end, when Joker and Deadshot make an appearance, and I got confused with the back and forth between reality and then this premonition or dream, and why are we going back and forth? What is the deal here? Is this,
and why is he having premonition? Like, what is that suddenly a superpower that he has? Like that,
right? And didn't we already cover this? Why are we doing this again way back at the end of the movie or toward the end of the movie? I don't know. That made no sense to me. You guys feel free to jump in with your own stuff here if you want. But Wonder Woman, this is one of yours, Eric, that I put in here. Wonder Woman talking about Steve Trevor.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
What? Why?
The only reason I can, this movie was supposed to come out before Wonder Woman 1984, so it was, I guess,
that's true.
Trying, I guess, in a way, was going to be leading into that a little bit. That she's still dealing with that is a horrible plot point of that.
It's not like Captain America where he was put on ice and was asleep for 70 years and then woke up. And so wanting to date Peggy Carter was a month ago for him, or a year ago for him. Wonder Woman is 5,000 years old, and she met this guy in 1916 or whatever.
But I would argue that this is like having your first, crush. Like, it's her first love. She never even met a man before.
I know, but then in the next 85 years, she's met thousands.
But as a percentage of her 5,000 years on the planet, maybe it's too small.
I'm just saying. It's not like
I'm totally
she
with
wasn't
you.
Transported from 1919 to now.
I totally get it. It's kind of like, all right, move on.
They linger. You mentioned this already. They linger too long on some unnecessary scenes. It's just they're just when you have no time limit, you can just do whatever you want and put in whatever. Who cares? It's fine, but deadlines make work. Like, you need deadlines, you need restrictions, you need rules so you can craft what you're doing, as opposed to
well, it goes back to what you were saying before. You have this perfectly crafted paragraph or phrasing or whatever, and so I think he liked some of the visuals that were created, and so wanted to put it in, which is fine, but it was just it made things go slower than necessary.
Watching the Flash rip himself out of his shoes, or Batman firing the cannon on the Batmobile and going 10 or 15 seconds on the empty shell bouncing on the ground.
Yeah. That's exactly what it's just. He loves his slow motion. This is a long-standing pet peeve, since the original movie came out. The Flash runs very weird. He has a weird running style. He's like throwing his hands forward as opposed to running like a human being. Well,
to that point,
I don't know what's going on with that run.
So the other thing, though, that I thought was kind of funny is after he rips out of his shoes and kind of runs, he's barefoot, and it looks like he's like running on his tiptoes in like a funny way that I'm like, oh, is it because he's barefoot? And then I'm like, well, if he ripped out of his shoes, why didn't he rip out of his clothes also? Because he had to have whatever, I'm going to say Kevlar, but it's not it, but like whatever that fancy schmancy suit was, so he doesn't superheat his clothes.
Right.
Why didn't that happen?
When Superman was resurrected, he busted out of his suit, but his pants were still on. Why? Why does the suit and tie fall off? But they still don't know how to use Lois Lane in this movie in particular. She's just sort of there. She's bringing coffee to the cops and to go pay her respects to the memorial site. Yeah. She could have not been in this movie at all. It would have been perfectly fine. Use her for something else. Who is the leader of the Justice League? That's my question to both of you right now. In
this movie?
Is it Batman? Is it Wonder Woman? Is it Superman? Who's in charge?
I feel like it is.
There has to be one, but
I feel like it is Batman.
I would say Batman
right now.
He thinks he is. He definitely thinks he is.
I would agree. I think Wonder Woman is the person that gets shit done.
Mm-hmm.
And Superman's gonna probably take stuff over at some point. But he's like he's the entrepreneur. He's the one that's kind of got the idea and he's pulling everybody together.
I mean, he brought them together, I guess, right? Yeah. So that's a thing. But in this movie, I know this clearly the Snyder Cut clearly is about bringing the team together, and this team, it's group focused, not individual focused as much. But and you don't have to have a leader necessarily in this movie, but I was just curious about that because it seems confused.
And they kind of alluded to that at the end when Bruce is in the old Wayne Manor where he's apparently setting up the Hall of Justice. He's like, I have a big round table in here, so assuming like there isn't going to be a leader, it's just going to be they're all working together,
right?
Sort of the Knights of the Round Table kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you do have a little bit of that in the Marvel stuff. You know, is it Iron Man or Captain America? They kind of play different roles, but they overlap a bit. So whatever, it's fine. Wow. Get some coffee, Eric.
All right.
Mountain Dew.
I'm not sure if this is bad or weird or just something that another hurdle DC has to get over, but there's not enough clarity for me for the motivation and the abilities and the reason why the big bad guy is doing what he's doing, why Darkseid, why he wants the anti-life equation, what the anti-life equation is, who is he,
loser.
what does he do?
He's a sore loser, that's why.
In the comics, Darkseid came first at DC before Thanos at Marvel, and Thanos was a ripoff of Darkseid, but purposefully. But now that your movie and your extended universe is coming after the Marvel one, you got to differentiate this guy from Thanos. Some other big, dopey CGI monster.
So are you talking about the motivation beyond just conquering a bunch of worlds? Like for Thanos, it was but for Thanos, it wasn't just that. It was this ultimate goal of creating a sustainable universe.
Right. So he's getting rid of half of all existence so that the other half can thrive.
Right.
Great. Balance, right? Darkseid, let's put I don't know what the anti-life equation is supposed to be, and I didn't look it up, nor do I really care about it. But so what is that? What is he going to do with it? He wants to just kill everything? I don't know what he's supposed to be doing, or I don't know what his deal is.
I think what it's supposed to do is it's essentially I watched something about it, but it kind of equates to the Infinity Gauntlet, that it gives him complete control over the entire universe, and it will allow him to control everything.
Yeah, well,
it's the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, I mean,
so he just wants absolute power.
Yes, over the entire universe.
And this is where based on what I've said previously, I'm not looking for more backstory, but a line or two would be helpful. Explaining what this dude is. I mean, as said by a couple of the characters in the movie, he's already dominated thousands of worlds as it is. What are we talking about then?
Yeah. So definitely in this cut, I understood a little bit more of the bad guy side. Obviously, there's a lot more about Darkseid, which I did find it interesting that Steppenwolf seemed more like a sniveling,
just a lackey
guy, not almost like a total screw up, where it's like he messed up somewhere else and nobody trusts him to get the job done. And he just kind of comes off as kind of everybody's like, all right, well, Steppenwolf's going to try to do this. It's really, it's really kind of funny in a way. And he's trying to prove himself to the big guy. Yeah. And that did not come across that way in the first original cut of the movie.
He's the Dwight Schrute of this.
Almost, yeah, almost.
He's trying to suck up to the boss, and
I mean, I had thought that he was more of the main bad guy.
What Joss Whedon was setting up, but not what Snyder wanted. So whatever.
But I guess it's the what was it in Marvel? It's not Thanos, but who is the blue guy? Ronan.
Yeah, sure.
But even more of a screw up.
Yeah.
But more of a screw up than that. And I just thought that was kind of interesting.
So I have a new section, a separate section, would you say, of things that are somewhere in between negative and positive. They're just things I noticed. They may be negative. We'll see how that goes. So,
Eric, did you have anything else before we go into that? Anything else that you were like, this is dumb?
Anything that really stood out to you?
No, not I can think of it at the moment.
Okay.
So, in the thousands of years ago, when this fight took place in the Earth's Heroes 1 or whatever, they separated these 3 mother boxes.
Yeah.
Which are like all-encompassing power, apparently, right? Just boxes of pure energy or whatever it is, right? One goes to the Atlanteans, one goes to the Amazons, and one goes to the humans, right? Yeah. The humans bury theirs, in some forest, and forget about it.
A whole 2 feet underground.
Yeah, right. So the depth,
nobody will find it.
We can quibble with depth, but the idea of burying it in a deep hole somewhere makes sense to me. Like, let's never do this again.
The Atlanteans bury it, sink it to the bottom of the ocean. The Amazons put it on an island, a secret island that's hidden from the world, and then they got guys dig a hole 2 feet deep and
so you're saying that the humans, men, whatever, that they had the worst hiding spot. The worst hiding spot?
Yes.
So I'm going the other way. I'm saying they have the best hiding spot, because both the Atlanteans and the Amazons literally put the box on a pedestal in a display hall for everyone to see. Like, it's out in the open. It's got a structure built around it, so it's almost like a museum piece, right? I know it's with the Amazons, it's a secret island and stuff, but the Amazons protected it well. They had dozens of people, 100 people around it in this big armored thing, and then they had this whole defense process that when it's attacked, you knock down the pillars and the whole thing shuts down, and then it collapses into the sea. Great. The Atlanteans had almost no defense. It was just like in this little...
Well, they had a handful of people.
Palace, guarded by like 4 or 5 knuckleheads that were dispatched instantly. Like, it wasn't...
I mean,
it was already at the bottom of the ocean.
I know.
But granted, I guess the point of Eric saying, though, you're saying it's good because it was buried in a random place that nobody's going to find it. But, also, it's just guarded by raccoons. Like, there's, nobody there. Raccoon.
Raccoon.
Raccoon. A raccoon.
So I totally get it. Like, it's
squirrelers and raccoons.
I like that idea better. I mean, it makes more sense. That's clearly what they put it there, and in a generation it's lost, right? It's gone forever. But a housing development goes up, and they dig it up, and it's instantly back
with a metal detector, like one of those beachcomber.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, to Eric's point, a strong rain, and it uncovers the box.
What's this?
So, yeah. The design of this is just more of opinion piece here, I guess. The design of the Desaad character, I almost said Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
Desaad, the second in command to Darkseid.
Gopher.
He looked a lot like Eric. Go with me on this one.
Gopher.
Okay. So, Eric, the design of the Desaad character, did he remind you of that dopey IROC character from Ready Player?
Absolutely, he did.
Thank you.
I said it out loud as I was watching it.
Like,
yeah, it's IROC from Ready Player One.
Yeah. Like, how does that happen? That was a big movie that was out, maybe at the same time as this one, to be honest, the original Justice League. But this was created for the Snyder Cut. It wasn't even in the other movie. I don't know how this... It was a bad design, and it looked like an existing character from another sort of
I don't recall that.
I'll show it to you, and it's a throwaway character.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter, but it was too coincidental. It's almost like one was based on the other.
Well, I mean, okay. And also, speaking of a character that looks like another character, the little shiny suit on Steppenwolf looked just like the thing from Thor.
The Destroyer.
Yeah. It. Yeah. I was like, wait a second, why that looks exactly the same.
I even wrote that one down.
And even, it wasn't in the original cut, so why put it back in when it looks just like the other?
Yeah, change up the design.
Yeah.
Even if this was my original idea, you have the benefit of hindsight, right. So fucking change it. Make his silver pointy armor, make that red now instead of silver. I don't know, whatever, but I don't know. Seems like a dumb mistake. I have this. I have a note here too. We already talked about this though. There's no basic context for why Darkseid wants to do what he wants to do. But we talked about the anti-life thing, and destroy all life. So, yeah, a lot of.
And so why did they lose track of Earth? Was it just because he got injured really badly? How did they lose track that this is where they left the mother boxes?
I don't know.
I mean, that just feels very careless.
And so I didn't realize until I saw a video or a tweet or something about it afterwards when Steppenwolf hammers his axe into the ground and uncovers that design that was from Darkseid. That was the marking that, this is Earth where the mother boxes are. At the time,
I get that part.
I didn't realize that watching the movie. I'm like, oh wait, what was that?
I mean, I remember. I'm like, oh, okay, that they were trying to find that, but they left Earth. Like, nobody took a note down to say, hey, this is where we left the mother boxes. Like, somebody didn't do their job is what that feels like to me. That they
I know
are in the solar system and didn't take a note.
Yeah.
The mother boxes are here.
Yeah. Everybody remember where we parked.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Trail of breadcrumbs.
It's ridiculous. I didn't that was one of the most baffling parts of the whole plot. Like, how did they lose track?
Under E17, take a picture. Yeah.
At what point did they realize they didn't have the mother boxes, and that they couldn't find their way back?
Right.
So I have this listed under.
There was no retracing their steps. Like, where were we last?
I have this listed under positives, although it has a negative spin ultimately.
It feels like the whole movie.
Yeah, right. Superman. The idea that Superman's death was what woke up the mother boxes and kicked off the whole movie, right?
Right.
That was good. At least there was some context of why all this shit was happening.
Yeah.
I like that whole thing. That makes perfect sense. Except.
Yeah.
So the reason the mother boxes woke up was because Earth had no protectors. It had no lanterns. I mean, they even say it in the movie. No lanterns, no Kryptonian, right? Because Superman died. No more big, tough guy to protect the Earth.
Yeah.
But why didn't this happen? Why Why weren't they awake before? Why weren't they awake at any point over the past 3,000 years, up until the 60s, 70s, or 80s? Because Superman didn't come to this planet until like 1985. He's 35 years old. So there was no Superman or Lantern in 1982 or 1976 or 1964. Like,
yeah.
Why didn't all this stuff happen before?
Yeah, I don't. That's a great question. I do not have the answer to that. And speaking of which, that was another character that was like in it for a second was a Green Lantern. Right. And he got his hand cut off. And then what happened to the lantern ring? Like what?
That whole scene just showed me what a pointless character Green Lantern is. Like he didn't do anything.
I guess coming back to
no skill.
Coming back to what we were talking about before about the Martian Manhunter showing up at the end, I saw something or read something today that Zack Snyder originally wanted to have a Green Lantern show up at the end to be like, "Hey, I'm here too now. If you need any help," but yeah,
Martian Manhunter did. It's like, "Hey, Superman, I'm here," or "Batman, I'm here." Like, okay, great.
Yeah, he wanted a Green Lantern, but the studio wouldn't allow it because they've got some plans for the Green Lantern that they wanted to do something else, so they wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him have a Green Lantern, so they compromised and had it be the Martian Manhunter.
Yeah, well, Green Lantern, Blue Lantern, Martian Manhunter, whoever the hell you want to put in there. Who cares if your whole thing is he just walks up and says, "Hey, I'm here. Contact me and I'll be in your Justice League. See you later." Like, to your point, where were you 4 days ago, asshole? When the whole world was dying. Like, why are you just knocking on my door? Like, hello.
Yeah, you're like messing around with Lois Lane and in her apartment, and then like do nothing.
Stop fucking around and pick up a shovel and help us out. Right. Like, dude, we're doing all the work here. Come on, man. Okay, let's get back to the quote unquote positives.
So did she have like his cape? Is that what that was in a box that Lois was like holding on?
That's what I assumed it was.
Yeah.
All right.
This movie definitely had much better character development.
Yeah. Well, you had 4 hours of
Steppenwolf was more interesting.
Cyborg
was like the main character of the movie, right? I mean,
yeah.
Much better, like way better. But yeah, you can do that in 4 hours. It just shows that you had a bad plan going in if you need 4 hours to tell this fucking story.
Well, again, I think it's honestly, it needed to be 8 hours, which is like 3 hours or 3 individual movies to develop Cyborg and the Flash and pick one other character. I mean, you've already got your Wonder Woman.
Martian Manhunter,
Martian Manhunter. Well, I mean, whatever.
Green Lantern, great.
And then you can have your Justice League as kind of the culmination of those things.
You know who I don't care about? The Flash at all, one bit.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah. I enjoy that character.
I enjoyed him in the movie, but as far as seeing any like his backstory or any more about him, I couldn't care less at all.
Because I know nothing about why he's flashy. Like I don't.
They overdo it with the lightning. His whole trick in the movie twice, 2 different times, is electricity.
It's also he went plaid and was able to reverse time. Like he just was able to go so fast.
He reversed time.
Ludicrous speed.
Exactly.
But like Mr. Fast Running, like they use him as an iPod charger. Like he's just a electricity source in this movie.
The one thing though that I liked in this cut about that character is he comes across as smarter and more confident, as opposed to the original cut where he's just kind of
a goofball.
A goof, yeah. So I like that. I'm the opposite of you. That is one movie I would like to see. And I hope they would keep Ezra Miller as the actor.
I think that movie is still coming.
Yeah, the Flash movie. I like him.
Hopefully it'll happen before he turns 40.
I know.
Like, my God.
I like him as a supporting character in a movie like this. I don't know that I want to see his whole deal, but fine. Superman's Resurrection. Still not perfect, but way better than the first time. Way better. More content.
I still love the exchange of headbutts between him and Wonder Woman.
Yeah. It's good. We didn't have some of those dopey lines, those pseudo comedy lines from Batman or from Aquaman or whoever. Like, it was more of a normal situation.
Yeah. I did like the pet tilts that Superman did a couple of times where, like, he's trying to understand what's happening and somebody will do something and he'll be like, what do you think you're doing? And I couldn't stop staring at it. His lats are ginormous.
Yeah, he's got a big back.
I mean, holy cow. You see it because he's just got dress pants on. Like, he's got he's got no shirt on. It's insane. And he's like a
friggin' aircraft carrier. He could land friggin' your heads. Enormous.
My last 2 points we've already talked about as positives. The reduction of the dopey comedic lines that are more, the tone is more in line with the previous films. We talked about that. And then overall, it's more interesting. There's more context. There's more story. But it's 4 hours.
Yeah.
Of course, there's going to be more of all that stuff, but it's 4 hours is so long.
Yeah. To go back to the darker and the grittier, one, language was different in this movie than any other superhero.
Fuck.
2 or 3 times.
I thought
at least twice.
It was definitely 2. It might have been 3 or 4. Yeah.
And there was a lot of blood.
Yep.
In this, which is different than a lot of superhero movies.
This was a rated R version, right?
Yeah.
Which for DC should be.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
I also appreciated a little bit more, although I didn't need to see the whole ceremony on the lighting of the fire.
Right.
And
that was good. It dragged on.
It could have been half the length and still gotten to the same point. Yeah. But I thought that was kind of interesting. I actually commented on it. Her jumping down into that hole or whatever on those heels, like, there is no way those heels wouldn't have broken. I mean, they're not super heels. I understand, like, she could do it, but those shoes aren't going to last.
No. Why is she wearing shoes?
She's not in her wedding.
If Flash's shoes didn't make it, then hers shouldn't have either.
No way.
And she was in all white.
Yeah.
You don't go spelunking in white.
No.
But I did like that. I liked the portrayal of Alfred in this.
Yeah.
In this,
I could
also
use more Alfred and less of some of the other stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
And I did like the comment, though, that Bruce Wayne said that he works for him.
Yeah.
I thought that was good because it seems like Alfred's the one that's doing all of the work.
Well, and Bruce Wayne has whatever that jet is that transport that carried all of them that Cyborg had to fix for him. I could have used less of the explanation of, I can't get it to work and it's, whatever. And then Cyborg has to fix it for him.
Was there a continuity issue that happened? Because I was definitely surprised. So weren't they in the Batcave on that original conversation? And then later on they show up again and the Flash is like, oh my gosh, like he was super excited to be there, or was that just in a different part?
I don't know. You've seen it 3 times, so I don't know. But Yeah, so I could use less of that. But also, who is building all this stuff for Bruce Wayne? It's not
James Gunn is. He's digging out all of these holes.
It's not Bruce and Alfred in the Batcave just tinkering on cars. Like, these are massive military vehicles that are modified in massive ways. Like, I don't know what's going on. Whoever's doing this work, they definitely know he's Batman, right?
Yeah. Who is the Morgan Freeman character?
Oh yeah,
Lucius Fox.
Yeah.
So overall, I was trying to put a number on this movie. The original version, I'm thinking I probably would have given somewhere around a 3-ish. And then the Snyder Cut, it's long, it's 4 hours. I'd probably give it a 6.5, somewhere thereabouts. If you got all the stuff you wanted in the Snyder Cut, but it was 2 hours and 52 minutes.
Wow, that's specific.
You know I like specifics. Then maybe it gets even a higher grade, but 4 hours is a lot. But yeah, it's not a great movie still, but it's twice as good as the previous one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot more plot exposition here, which is good. I think it still unfortunately suffers from the original design of trying to do too much too fast in one movie.
Yeah, it should be 2 or 3 movies.
And so going back to what you were saying about this could be a new way for production companies to put out a second cut of the movie.
We're really going to see that in the next couple of years.
So I think the way that I would kind of think about this is they could actually fix the sin of, okay, they had the Justice League and then they're going to re-release it where you got like a series of 1 hour focus character development on each of those characters. And it might be 6 or 8 hours, right, but you can then spend an hour on The Flash, an hour on Martian Manhunter, an hour on Aquaman. Like, so you can kind of repair whatever missing components are there.
Yeah. So, Eric, Dune's coming out later this year.
Oh, yeah.
That's a giant, epic story. You can do a 3-hour theatrical cut of Dune, but you could definitely also do, okay, here's the super deluxe director's cut that we're going to release on HBO Max or whatever the hell it is, right? HBO Max, yeah. And it's 6-hour-long movie, or hour-long mini movies, or whatever you want to call them, right? It's 6 episodes, or it's 4 2-hour movies, or whatever the hell. It's a series of things, or go crazy. It's an 8-hour movie. Sit down and we scheduled intermissions, whatever you want to do. I think it opens up a lot of options for these streaming places that can work with the movie houses to make different versions of things. I think we're going to see a lot of this over the next 3 to 4 years.
And I think there was sort of kind of an acknowledgement of that in a way, the way that this movie was broken up into chapters. You know, like I think there was that was kind of interesting to kind of, okay, this is I can't remember what it was, but one was All the King's Horses. And,
6 parts.
So I thought that was smart if you're issuing a 4-hour movie, that it's kind of broken up. But I think that could have been like a series and not a singular movie.
And when I saw it, like in real time, when we were seeing, part 3, part 4 would come up on the screen, I thought, they just didn't want to shoot the transition from this segment to the other segment, because that would have made this a 4-hour and 40-minute movie or whatever with all those transitions. So he just went from, section to section to section, which is fine. Didn't hurt it at all. I didn't bother me at all. But I think this could be the start of a new sort of partnership between the streaming services and the theater versions and rejiggering stuff and all that stuff. I think it's
Did he get money to do? Did I see he got like $20 million? He got money to do that, right?
I think he had a budget. Yeah,
they gave him $70 million to do the movie, but he personally got nothing.
Right. The movie had a budget. He didn't.
Oh, I see.
Get paid.
Yeah. In order to be able to keep his, I think it was so he could keep his creative control, he personally took no money.
Yeah. That's fine.
That's called having a vision.
Yeah. It's also called already being paid for other stuff.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts on this, Eric?
One thing I noticed, this is just a minor observation. That has nothing to do with nothing. But the flashback of Cyborg in the football game. They were playing against Wisconsin.
Yeah, I did notice that too. I noticed that too, for sure.
And I'm pretty sure I know the reason behind that. Zack Snyder was actually born in Green Bay.
I was wondering if there was a connection.
So Zack Snyder is from Wisconsin.
Interesting. I will also say that there was too much underwater. Like it was.
Yeah. Oh, by the way,
that was a continuity issue from Aquaman, because in Aquaman the Mariner people, or whatever you want to call the Atlanteans, they could just talk to each other underwater.
Right.
But in this movie, they had to create that air pocket in order to have a conversation.
Yeah, that's ridiculous that you would have to. You're an underwater being, and in order to communicate, you have to create an air bubble. Ludicrous. Yeah. Also,
why aren't there then like 1,000 air bubbles down there? Like, why doesn't it just look like
you're not an underwater creature if you can't communicate without air or without an airspace? Yeah. The other thing is, what's her face? Amber Heard had a British accent in this movie as opposed to the other times we've seen her. Like, no, how does that happen?
Yeah. I found the singing women also distracting the
Icelandic, whatever. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, at the fisherman village.
Yeah.
And you and I talked about this when we were watching it. The number of times he takes off sweaters, shirts, and boots, where does he stash this that he's in and out of them so often?
Right. Does he have like a little stash of discarded clothes near every port?
Yeah.
He just goes and gets.
He's got like a duffel bag tied in, like a buoy or something like that. Like it's.
Yeah.
He's always well dressed in kind of like trendy fisherman garb. But it's like always like he takes it off and like throws it. But yeah, the singing girls was really weird. For sure.
Yeah, the sniffing of the sweater at the end there too. That was a little. That was a bit much.
Clearly, establishing that they think of him as like a god or a god-like figure, but you didn't need that. Well,
right.
He fucking comes out of the ocean.
There was a reason that was cut. Like that was unnecessary.
Yeah.
And this was not an original thought, but I feel it's worth noting is the Wonder Woman music, like the serious music every time she's on is absolutely ridiculous.
It's funny.
Yeah.
And I didn't, so, that whole scene at the beginning with the bank was just...
It was too long.
It was too long, but why, I understand that she's like a crime fighter, but what's the relevance of it at all? And I am always baffled, and it was in the original cut also why she has to say that the lasso of whatever compels you to tell the truth.
Who cares?
Shouldn't it already be like he should just be talking? Like, why does she have to say, well, this is on you, so now you got to tell the truth? Right. It should just be happening. Right. Why isn't she just asking the questions?
And I don't understand why she blew out the whole side of the building to get that one guy.
Yeah.
That was absurd. And when the guy has his machine gun and he's shooting at all the people and she's going running back and forth, blocking each and every bullet, that was just way too cartoony for me.
Well, I guess it was interesting that I don't remember Wonder Woman, and I guess Superman did to a certain extent, but they all have the same powers as the Flash. Like, why?
Now I need to talk about this. Of course, there is some overlapping of abilities here and there. Marvel has it as well to an extent. But the writers and directors need to try to separate them when they can. I don't know what Wonder Woman can do that Superman can't do, but apparently she can do everything. She can even fucking fly, according to the last couple movies.
Yeah. She doesn't have fire eyes, though. That's
she
the
doesn't
only
have fire eyes. Great, but like, why are they so close? I mean, if you were doing what's it, Venn diagram, it's almost on top of each other. Then why have two characters like that? Separate them so that they can complement each other or be filling each other's gaps, right?
Or then when one of them is gone, like Superman dead, then they actually can miss him. Right. If there's something that they have that the rest of them don't.
Exactly. And if we know Superman can move super fast, but if you have the Flash, then Superman needs to not use that ability and just let the Flash do it. And the same with Wonder Woman. Like, they should have their own lanes to a large degree, and they don't, and it drives me insane.
Yeah. So, in general, of course, I like the Wonder Woman character a lot.
I do too, but it has to be fine.
Yes. So, on its own, totally fine, but with a movie with the Flash and her being super flashy, like, I was kind of like, well, okay. But she's got, unfortunately, some hokey lines that she was given. One, the little girl who said, I want to be like you, and she said, you could be anything you want to be.
Ridiculous.
Okay, true,
Whoever
except for you're not going to be a god.
You can't be me, sorry.
But the one that bothered me the most, and I kind of skipped around in the hour before this to just kind of refresh my memory, because it took me 3 attempts to get through it, and I fell asleep twice. So I wanted to make sure I kind of remembered some things. When they're in when they're in the tunnel in one of the small nests of these waspy guys, Steppenwolf says,
demon or parademons, not white Anglo-Saxon Protestants.
Right, correct. Right. Yes. So Steppenwolf says, basically, back off, guys. This one's mine.
Yeah.
And she goes, I belong to no one. And I'm like, you have missed the point of what he is actually saying. It could have been a guy, and he was saying, I'm taking this one out. It was just a touch too hokey.
This movie and
attempting to be kind of this feminist statement, which I am all about. It wasn't necessary.
It needs to make sense.
When she said that line, I said out loud, nobody except Steve Trevor.
Right. But so, that was kind of
all right, let's
some of
wrap
the lines
this
was
up.
different.
This is getting long.
All right.
Yeah.
Overall, I think it's a positive. I talked about, I think it's a good future, or a good look at the future of what might be coming down the pike for some of these studios. We'll see. I think the movie went from a 3 to a 6.5. You guys think it's a positive movie?
I do.
It's gone over 50%. Yeah.
Yeah. Now we'll see.
Is it certified fresh for me? I don't know. Maybe just.
It's just right. Yeah. I gave it 65, right? So, all right. Well, that's the end of our first attempt at a reaction to some sort of dopey movie.
All right.
So we may do others, but who knows?
It was different, but fun. All right.
Yeah. So, I agree. Depending on how, the whole thing of it is just trying to get people to subscribe to HBO Max. So,
yeah, sure.
We'll see if they consider that to be successful or not, then they'll take more chances. And other people might be willing to take that chance too.
They got all kinds of publicity and attention for it over the past 3 days. So, we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see if we get the George Lucas versions of the
oh my God,
sequel Star Wars trilogy.
Well,
he's gonna redo everything.
The good thing is Lucas no longer controls any of that shit. But the bad news is Disney does. So who the fuck knows?
Right.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't need an extended cut of Attack of the Clones.
Oh God.
No thanks.
Yeah, I didn't even know this was coming out until you told me on Thursday, hey, I'm going to watch this thing. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it was...
I wasn't paying attention. All right. Very exciting.
All right, Eric. That's it.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Eric.